Hello guys, today we're looking at the Marvel Legends 10-year Iron Man Mark VII figure. This figure retails at $24.99 and comes included with 6 accessories if you count all of his interchangeable hands. And we'll start off by looking at those accessories here. And mind you, a quick note, since this figure is in the 10th anniversary line, it does not include a Build-A-Figure piece, so your $24.99 just buys the figure. And it's a pretty good figure to start off with, but now back to the accessories. This figure comes included with 4 hands. It comes with 2 closed fist hands and then 2 open fist hands. We'll start with these closed fist ones, and as you can see here, they're pretty nicely sculpted. No paint on them, but they do include a nice ball joint, single ball joint, and plug in nicely. And same for the other hand here. Well sculpted as always, and not really any paint. And the other sculpts follow the same suit paint-wise, but sculpt-wise they're a little behind, just because they don't include a ball joint. But, as I'll show in just a second here, that's fine, as it allows you to pull off a little bit more dynamic poses that a regular ball joint would never allow these things to bend to, especially with this little flap of metal here that has to pivot, as you can somewhat tell there. So we'll put on these open palmed hands quick. And as you can see here, Iron Man can now pull off either his flying hand pose or his blasting hand pose, which I'll show off flying over here using his little jet accessories. And then blast over there. And these jet accessories are the ones we've had time and time again. These are well sculpted and cast in a bright yellow color. There's not much coloration to it, I guess, since a lot of times we see a darker hue on the back and then a lighter hue in the front. But these are really consistent rather throughout color-wise. The only difference is just because the plastic is less thick at areas. So no real paint on those parts. But aside from those accessories, he comes with nothing else except for some really cool action features and some really good detailing. My favorite action feature of this figure, I call it action feature is just because it's so cool, it's not really like spring action or anything, is you can actually open up, I don't quite recall what these did in the film. I want to call them jet wings, but I know that's completely incorrect. I'm sorry everybody who's a diehard Marvel fan, I just enjoy the films. Yeah, but all 4 of these come up and they do a really well job. Since obviously that's in the up pose, all underneath has the detailing, and when you put them down again, which they come down really easily, don't feel like they're going to break or anything, it closes rather well. So overall, that was a really great feature they did there. And beyond that, the figure really doesn't have much else to offer. I was really hoping we would get an unmasked head, especially with the new printing technology, and I feel like they almost include one, so I want to show you something quick here. If you look on the head sculpt at all, the face mask is actually a separately sculpted piece, so I'm not sure if originally this figure was meant to come with a face mask or interchangeable head. The face mask being a separate piece really hinted at they almost put the head into production, because that means they would just save the rest of the sculpt and just move the face mask up or something to that degree. But unfortunately we don't get a face mask, which kind of sucks for this figure. Mind you, this figure is great in every other area though. It's finally a bulky Iron Man, since a lot of time we get these really thin things in which a person can never fit into. And I know for the Infinity War one it's nanotech, so it makes sense, but for the earlier versions it didn't really, considering that it was huge bulky armor that he actually wore. So we should have a figure that comes across as big, bulky, and it looks like a person would fit inside realistically. And this one is the first one that actually does. Just to give you a light scale of this figure, I'm going to use the House of M Spider-Man, which is the classic comic Spider-Man buck, which is the thinner body. And as you can see here, Iron Man, I'll put it on the other side, Iron Man is not only taller, but overall just thicker and larger. It looks like this Spider-Man could fit inside the armor, and that's really what Hasbro was going for, and they did it quite well. This figure, again, not many accessories, but they did a really well job. Articulation is great as well. Comes with a ball jointed head, ball jointed torso, ball jointed shoulders, and if you notice, these armor pads are not pivoting like they used to or on the shoulder, but they do allow movement since they're made of a more rubbery plastic, and they won't get lost. So that's a little upside there. And you have your swivel bicep, double jointed elbow, which moves really smoothly, swivel wrist or ball jointed wrist, depending on which one you're using, ball jointed hip, swivel thigh, double jointed knee, and finally your rocker ankles. So this figure features, again, all the articulation we're used to. The paint job's pretty good. I would have preferred maybe a little more detailing, a little more crisp detailing. The head paint job's really good. And overall on the thighs, you just see a little bit of the silver's not done properly, a little bit of the gold's not done properly. It's not really all too noticeable, but it isn't perfect. I would have preferred a dirtier look, or at least a little bit of damage or wear to the figure, since I just think it makes the figures look a little more realistic, especially at the scale. But I'm fine with the clean look. The plastic is done really well. I know a lot of times when we see metal cast in just really the plastic, we see a lot of the mold swirls or whatever just because they use cheap plastic here. And overall, you don't see really any. I only have one small one here on this thigh, which the calf, which I'm not even sure comes across in the camera. But overall, the plastic quality is pretty good. Detailing is rather good. And accessory count is okay. I won't really commend them for 6 accessories, especially when 4 of them are hands. But it does its job. Overall, sculpt is great, paint job's okay, extra accessories are okay, and overall I'm going to give this figure a 7, which, I mean, a lot of you may be surprised, well, why giving this a 7? It's a great figure, I will tell you that right now. If this was a basic figure, it would easily get an 8 or a 9. But since it comes not only with how to build a figure piece, but at a higher price point, I'm not sure the amount of quality that they wanted to put in there is actually there. This figure is gorgeous, don't get me wrong. If you really want an Iron Man Mark 7, you're going to pick it up. But I wish we could have gotten a little more for the higher price point, and had Hasbro really show us that this thing was worth the $25 price that it was sold at. Overall, it's a great figure. One of the very few brand new figures in the 10th anniversary line, since a lot of them are just repaints or figures that came out years ago, which I mean are just repaints or slight alterations. But this one is a completely new figure as far as I can tell. Maybe the hands, no, not even the hands are reused since it's a different mold. So yeah, completely new figure as far as I can tell. Maybe I'm wrong. If I am, please let me know. I would like to keep this review as accurate as possible. Thank you for watching.